So welcome to today's production of HFS Live. And today we are talking about data, my new favorite subject, and how bad data is really compelling to not do transformation in your industry. It's destroying data efforts. There's nothing worse than moving bad data into the cloud. You get even worse data and it's even more expensive to access. So without further ado, we'll get started, and joining me shortly is a guy who will introduce himself shortly as well, but Kevin Campbell I've known for about 2 decades. I think he was the COO of one of the original BPO firms, Exalt, back in the day when I first met him, and then he went on to Accenture, where he grew the BPO and then the technology businesses for them to multi-billion-dollar levels, and then more recently set up this really terrific rebranded firm, Syniti, which was originally Back Office Associates, and that's I think very exciting. And in fact, they made their first sort of fairly large acquisition of DMR recently as well. So Kevin, just wanted to say hi, if you can introduce anything else to add to your introduction.
Thanks, Phil, and you're too kind. Yes, we have known each other for a long time. Thanks for having me on. And I'm really excited today to, I've got a sneak preview of the research and for you to unveil that to the rest of the world, because I think there's some great stats that people might intuitively know, but now they've got the data behind it. You know, and at Syniti, we're excited about our recent merger with DMR, and we're more excited that we've got a growing team that can help our clients be more successful. And we work on the biggest, hardest data problems, and that's what we like and what we're all about. So this is exciting times for us, and thanks for having me on. Excellent.
Thanks, Kevin. So one thing that you should all do is we're going to talk a bit about a terrific study that we've just announced. We just press released it, I think, today. And this was focused very much on how the Global 2000 C-suite is approaching their data strategies in this environment, where CXOs stand on their effective practices and what's really holding them back. So you can go to our website, hfsresearch.com, and you'll see it there. There's a link. We'll send you the deck as well, so you can copy the link. But it's bad data is killing your business transformation efforts. So we fully encourage you to download your copy, and we'll talk a bit about some of the key findings today. I think we're all getting familiar with these lovely Zoom webinar sessions by now. So if you want to submit some questions, the best thing to do, I think, is go into the Q&A icon in the little Zoom panel, type your question in, and then we'll see if we can get to it in the latter half of this presentation today. So to start with, we ran a major study just at the end of last year across 400 of the Global 2000, and we asked these enterprise leaders, are they going to return back to the environment they were in before the pandemic? And as you can see, only 37% have said they want to go back to a work at home environment, a work in the office environment. And the rest have come out and said quite openly, like Amazon and Unilever, you can go through them all, they're really committed to a hybrid workforce. And the US in particular is the most keen on doing this. So if you are targeting companies who are in that 37%, great, you don't need to change that much. But if I'm assuming the 67% who are now changing the way they operate, the way they work remotely, we're in a different world, and we aren't going back exactly to the way things were. We're going into an emerging environment that's unraveling in front of our eyes, and we'll talk about that a bit more shortly. In the pandemic, certain industries are doing better than others. This has been a renaissance for the banking and finance industry. They had about 20% of their business was still very analog, and they've managed to digitize a lot of their customer base as a result of this and really profit from the circumstances. Obviously, healthcare and life sciences have enjoyed a complete renaissance as well in terms of the importance that they hold, and they've grown in size and profitability as well. And other industries like insurance, unsurprisingly, has done well in this market. There's as well as high tech and telecom at slightly increased, not as much as the stock market would like us to believe, but it's still doing reasonably well. And industries that have struggled, obviously travel, even though travel in the US domestically is now higher than it was before COVID. We expect that industry to come back in a different digitized way, maybe with some emerging different companies as well. And I think the ones hardest hit as well have been consumer products and obviously retailers, not the online ones, because it's just uncertainty plagues us all. And when it's understanding inventory replenishment and getting products to market, it's been a difficult time for those industries. But looking back, this is about the length of time I've known Kevin, but we go back to about 1990 and onwards, you can see the different models that companies have gone through to get to where they are today, you know, from nearshoring, offshoring, back in the day. Then we had the onset of cloud and digital in around 2010-ish, and basic digital was really about how do we respond quickly to clients online, to the one office environment I'll touch on shortly, which is where we are today, which is really all about a data-driven customer to employee environment where we operate in a duality with our customers and employees, and you can't really drive a CX strategy now without having your employees as part of that. And then we evolve into the future where we call it hyper-connected, where we get a lot more fluid, unstructured ecosystems. You're probably seeing yourselves that industries are reshaping in ways that we never thought possible. There's, you know, we see a whole food supply chain evolving that we never saw before. You're seeing, you know, retail and healthcare and pharma all merged together in a value chain in rapid fashion. So building external ecosystems, data-driven virtual organizations is the future we're evolving into. And that would have probably been 2035, but it's now going to be more like 2025 as we look out. But one thing that's really common here is what we've been doing over the last 2 or 3 decades is pretty much the same things, the same way, the same processes, just a little bit more efficiently, a little bit cheaper, a little bit faster. We've moved data around the company a bit better, but we haven't fundamentally changed anything until COVID hit us. And then many enterprises went through their first ever transformation of just trying to operate in a work from home model. I mean, how do we get our business just functioning in very basic levels to survive? And this forced transformation is now the first time many enterprises have had to really address changes that they needed to make for a very long time. I'm talking some of the data from our study we did with Syniti, where we spoke with 100 C-level executives in the Global 2000. And you can see here the most important factors for success: financial stability, quite clearly, but then high levels of data quality and trust. It's the number 2 factor now for companies' continual success, even higher than product and service innovation and emerging tech. It's about data quality and trust. So we talk a lot about a data cycle at HFS, and it's understanding, you know, what starts and ends, and it really does all start and end in data. And most companies are about here. They're getting the data to win in their market. They're trying to align their data needs to deliver on their business strategy. And this is where you've got to clarify your vision and your purpose. So data is the strategy. Then you've got to rethink your processes to get that data. What should be added? What should be eliminated? What should be simplified across your workflows to get there, right? And then it's about designing, how do you do this in the cloud? Right, we're working in virtual models today where people across different business lines, different geographies. You can't function if you're not in the cloud in some shape or form. So how do you design processes over a 3-tier web architecture? You know, how do you build that true environment for real digital transformation in action? So getting it into the cloud is absolutely critical. And then when you're in the cloud, you've got to automate this stuff. You know, but automation is not your strategy. It's your discipline. It's what you need to ensure your processes provide the data at speed to achieve your business outcomes. So you've got to approach all future automation in the cloud if you want to run your processes effectively end to end. And then finally, once you've got your stuff working in the cloud, it's much easier to administer AI solutions to deliver at speed in self-improving feedback loops. And this is where you apply digital assistants, computer vision, machine learning, and other techniques to refine the efficacy of your data. It's how we engage with our data to refine ourselves as digital organizations, where we really want this single office to operate with agility, where we can do things faster, cheaper, and more streamlined than we ever thought possible. So AI helps us predict and anticipate how to beat our competitors, delight our customers, and reach both inside and outside of our organizations to pull the data we need at critical speed. Just to sort of reinforce this in terms of the big issues and challenges facing organizations today, it's a cultural resistance to a data-driven organization, and it's data security. And then it's getting your C-level commitment to do that. But when we really align what those top three challenges are, it's data quality, it's data security, and it's getting the advanced skill sets to work with data. In terms of executive ownership, this is really seen, this pandemic has seen the reemergence, I think, of the CIO and the CTO at the head of the decision-making table for a lot of this, and ownership of data strategies as we look across the business. Key involvement, obviously, from other non-technical executives. But when we talk with the CIOs and CTOs, they're telling you everything they're doing is now in the cloud. It's less about lots and lots of piecemeal custom development, a lot about understanding agility, security, and quality of data. And to do that, they're needing to understand more business context with what they do. And on the flip side, if you're a CFO or a COO, you need to understand database schema a little bit. You need to understand what it means to invest in low-code, no-code applications. So we're seeing an alignment and a coming together of strategy and execution across the technology and finance departments that we hadn't seen before. We talk a lot about one office. That's a big piece of the study, and just to sort of talk about what it is, it's about running processes end to end. It's about bringing together your most critical assets, your customers and your employees and your partners, and it's driving alignment and metrics around one single office. It's not an operating model or framework. It's a mindset that we need to get to, and it really does represent this shift to cross-functional enterprise operations powered by an integrated stack of emerging tech that complements your core. And you can see here how we look at this employee experience and customer experience really coming together across three tenets of automation, people and process, data and decisions and insights. And it's looking at this digital infrastructure that really makes it happen, the augmented workforce, which is where we look at how do you align outcomes, how do you align people's goals, mindsets, how do you become more inclusive with a digital mindset, and what types of methodologies like design thinking and lean are you using to be effective. And then you need to be anticipatory in terms of how do we actually predict what our customers are going to do before they may even know it themselves. How do we understand the changing nature of supply chains across other industries and using macro data externally and that sort of thing? And that can all feed into the customer experience, which is all about the touchless interaction and personalization, etc. So that's what really One Office is all about. And it's the skills behind One Office, which is really fascinating. And I'm looking forward to hearing Kevin's views on this, where we're looking at things like digital fluency, which is that interplay between business and tech. How can people show more initiative? How can they be better at interacting with each other? How can they be better problem solvers? How do you have more social influence and display more energy and value? I mean, we're really in a people-driven market these days where the force of personality and empathy is becoming increasingly critical and important, aligned with the data that we need to be effective. And then what are the values guiding principles and actions? And just to back this up, this was a separate study we ran on 400 executives, where we are trying to understand what are the strategies that leaders are pursuing in this market. They're looking to enable a truly digital workforce. They're looking to modernize. They're looking to outsource more. They're looking to be more agile. They're looking to be more effective. And you can see here we're actually experiencing a fairly significant increase in the outsourcing intentions of businesses. We're seeing some very positive results from the service providers. We just saw a couple yesterday where they've increased significantly in Q1 this year over Q1 last year, which was pre-COVID. So seeing that 30% are planning near-term investments, we expect increase in spend around the 10% level this year. It's an interesting time if you're in the outsourcing space. But we also need to understand that it's not just about profit and cost now. I mean, we spoke with these C-suite executives around what is it that's driving their organizations, and it's not just about let's accelerate COVID, because we have to change. They're looking to drive profits with a purpose that impacts broader stakeholders beyond shareholders. It's not just about let's just make money here. It's about how do we actually have a bigger, more infinite impact on our industries and the world around us. And understanding the data you have can help drive that. So getting into the research here, we spoke with 100 C-suite executives over in billion-dollar plus organizations. 40 from IT leaders, 60 were non-IT leaders, so we got a good mix of both of them. I can show you more of this later. You can see there was a good cross-section of industry, fairly typical, more in the BFS space than others, and a good spread across the geographies. So the first thing, and I'll throw this out to you, Kevin, but more than a quarter of the respondents have shown a very high trust levels in their company's data. While 56% have a high trust level. So is that good enough, Kevin, in your opinion? Do you think half the people only have a high level of trust, or do you think things can be a lot more improved in the industry?
So I think it's a good start, but things have to be a lot better than that. I don't think that most of us want to operate on, only 50% of us feeling confident in our data. Really we need to, when you look at it, most problems are data problems. All transformations, digital transformations require data transformations. And so, I'd like to see, certainly for all the people that we're working with and stuff, that very high is way up there. And they know where it is. And as you and I have talked about before, the problem today is people are still dumping all their data in a data lake or data ocean, which rapidly, if you don't have a high level of trust in the data, know where it comes from and it's governed, all turns into a data swamp.
That term, data swamp. Wonderful. So, so CEOs are citing data as twice as important as management competency now. I mean, what is causing this appreciation for the importance of data in your experience? And are you thinking about how you leverage this differently at Syniti?
Yeah, I think the classic example I use is the CEO goes into the boardroom and asks some question, and he gets several different answers from around his team. And it's because they all have their own data or their own version of the data that they sliced, and they're all presenting what they think the truth is. But the reality is he doesn't have, or she doesn't have the truth. Now, I know several examples where, people have gone through multiple CIOs and multiple CEOs because getting trusted data, single source data, that everybody believes in, people just couldn't get it done. And so I think that's raising the awareness, the fact that people are connecting every problem is a data problem, or the majority of them are, right? If it's, the answer's in the data, stupid, right? Is the phrase that you often hear, and people are really, trying to push that and drive that. So I think that makes a difference for us. We're trying to reinforce at Syniti, the importance of data and how strategic it is. And we're asking people, do you have a data strategy, right? Do you know, and I always say, if you don't know where to start with what are the key KPIs are to run the business, and make sure you've got the right data that facilitates those KPIs. If you've got that, you've got a good place to start. And then you can work on the overall, governance. What's the quality level? What's the trust levels in the data?
Right. Okay. Let's talk a bit about scale here. So 23%, only 23% have implemented a data strategy at scale across the enterprise, and half of them agree that they're significantly underutilizing their data resources due to a lack of effective data management. So what are the big challenges here facing enterprises that account for this discrepancy? What is blocking them from building out a data strategy? Do you think the pandemic also put them further behind, or has it created opportunities?
I think the pandemic, let's start there first. I think the pandemic has highlighted the importance of data and the fact that, we probably sped ahead 5 years, maybe more, the need, as you said, upfront for digital transformation. And they're connecting the digital transformation requires data transformation. If I can't do that, it works. So I think the importance is being recognized, and that's helped us. I think people are still struggling with, where do I start? This is a big, complex thing with lots of people involved, or lots of people with opinions. So where do I start, and then how do I grow from there? Is the critical piece that they have. And I think it can be overwhelming, especially a company that's done a lot of M&A, to say, how do I decide, what do I integrate, how fast I can integrate it, and when I can do. And the world's changing fast, right? So they're doing more M&A, and they're more divestitures and carve outs and so on. So that speed of change is really working at people, and they've really got to drive that. And so I think some people just say, wow, this is really hard, and I've got so many priorities in the business. But data is a foundational priority. So I try to remember, and the people that I'm talking to, let's go back to, what's the stuff to get right, and let's go slow so we can go fast. Meaning, let's get the data part right, so that, because it then makes a big deal and a big help. If I don't have the data right, then basically I'm just telling you, Phil, that I'm doing the wrong thing faster with all the automation and digital transformation I'm doing.
Okay. So thinking about the role of IT in data governance strategy, and 89% cite a high quality level of data versus 85% executive management acumen has been critical to overall success. Does it surprise you that executives trust the data instead of their bosses?
No, but I think so many, the preponderance of them did surprise me. And I think, I think that's one of the many valuable things in this study, is it really highlights that importance. And I think to some people, it'll surprise them. To other people, will say, yeah, I knew that, but it's good to see it reinforced so that we can figure it out.
Right. And, we talk a lot about the importance of objectives and the role of data, but you can see here what is driving the clients that you're talking to right now. Obviously, we've got survival pretty high up there, top line growth, supporting yep. M&As, that sort of thing. What are you seeing as the drivers at this point?
Well, I think, the thing that certainly the coronavirus hitting around the world, and a moment to acknowledge our colleagues in India that are certainly struggling at the moment with their either second or third wave, and hopefully our thoughts and prayers are with them, and hopefully that they're going to be able to quickly get back on their feet, so to speak, and we'll get those vaccines and all the other medical supplies that they need. But, when this hit us, right, nobody knew exactly how it was going to evolve and what was going to happen. As it's evolved, it's needed for people to move faster. So the questions that I'm getting from people all the time are, I need to look at my business. I need to say, what pieces am I going to double down on, and what pieces am I going to get rid of? That really drives the M&A divestiture discussion, because they're saying, hey, I either need to get better at what I'm doing, or I need to get rid of it, right? Growth is the number one agenda, right? Beside this, for the companies that need survival, right? That, a lot of companies came under threats in their business models, and, we see the local restaurants, and we see all the foot-based retailers having a really hard time. But everybody focused on, Q2 and Q3 last year were flat to significantly down. And so people are saying, how do I grow revenue? How do I increase market share? How do I continue to dominate? And they're just continuing to focus on that. So the strategies are there. If I'm a CEO today, what can I do that's really going to dramatically change my growth trajectory, right? I'm going to get some revenue programs going that are going to be focused on my customers that are important, that are going to help drive that. I'm going to sell a division. I'm going to buy divisions. I'm going to combine somebody else's product with my customers. And those are all the kinds of things that they're looking at. And I think we're already seeing the surge. And I think the second half of this year and next year are going to be amazing times for M&A and divestitures, and in general for the customer programs. We're seeing huge demand for 360 views of your customer, right? So that, where I had disparate customer things and I didn't bring them together, I'm saying I got to know that, because I got to know what products I can bring and how I can drive them some more.
Right. Completely with you on that. So in terms of commercial aspects of data, you got 42% indicated that they're significantly changing their activity on planning and launching digital products or services, either pure play technology or enhancing physical products and services to make them digital via better use of data. Mouthful, right? So as we look at what we're seeing here, on the left-hand side, 50% are significantly changing how they're planning on using data generated outside the enterprise, which is much greater than those planning on selling data for revenue generation. And then you've got obviously the products and services thing here. How do you read this? So you've got quite a big change in external data, which will be a big change, I'm sure, for how you're working with your clients. And what does that entail in terms of the needs that a service provider has to bring on, and how clients can get maybe smarter at managing this?
Yeah, I was staggered when I really dug into it a couple years ago and started to hear more examples from clients of how much people spend on data, right? And outside data, right? We always want to have data to prove our point. But in a lot of these cases, people are trying to use data to say, how well am I doing compared to my peers? How well am I doing compared to anybody else that's out there? So I spend so much money, right, on that outside data, and it wasn't well governed. So I think most companies are finding, they had multiple places in the company where they bought the same data. They didn't use their buying power. They didn't consolidate. And so there's a real focus on getting that organized, cleaned up, and making sure that outside data is available to people in an easily digestible form. I think there's, very good, certainly there's the retailers and consumers that, want to sell data about demand, customers, and what they like and stuff like that in order to help revenue generation. I think we're just scratching the surface of what people can do with data, how they can value add it to their products and services. And so I'm not surprised that that's the lowest of the three, because it's the one that takes the most creativity and the most value add to figure out how it can be used as a real differentiator. And then lastly, all the world is going digital. And I think that people are just working on evolving their products and services to how to use digital or, and or other value added services to sell more. So if I look at this, I think the outside has been here the longest. The digital is coming up fast because, people know it's important, but the pandemic is, proved to you that it's important. People wouldn't go out of their house, but, the next favorite person is their Amazon or UPS delivery people that they're all excited about. And, they're going to spend more and more time. People are creating departments and just really trying to focus on what data can I add to my products, not a digital product itself, but what can I add to my traditional products that I get some super value add out of that helps differentiate me, because we're always trying to say how we different from everybody else. And so this is helping on the differentiation side.
Excellent. So let's get into where the money's being spent in data management right now. So we've got some data here that shows in the orange what is being spent now, in the blue where enterprises expect to spend in 2 years. You can see right now it's a lot of integration, including ERP application migration, and that's an area I know you're very heavily geared with your business. Then we got automating processes and data visualization. And then I think it's worth pointing out, in a couple of years' time, security is coming out top, AI, advanced analytics, predictive modeling. So what are you seeing now, and what do you think we're going to be talking about in 2 years, Kevin?
So I think there's the core, right? How do I integrate it? How do I put my applications together that is going to continue to grow? I think there's some really good advancements in visualization that are helping people figure out cleverer ways to take that data and show it in a meaningful way that makes a difference, that proves my point, that shows that of what we're trying to do. I think the processes, and I've talked to our friend Tiger over at Genpack a lot about this, as they do a ton of process work, right? And he said, we just find over and over again, the more we help people with their processes and redo their processes, it just highlights, areas that they need to fix their data, right? And that's a way, whether people knew their data was bad and they're trying to fix it as part of a project, or they said, hey, my processes are bad, let me fix those, and then realize that, hey, the processes are held together by data, and I got to make sure that that data is right and working, or it doesn't make sense. So I think we're going to continue to see data come into the forefront about what is being done. Your one office chart, which shows the critical links between all the platforms and what's there, will all continue to do that. And we haven't even talked about, AI and machine learning, which are, areas where I think we're just scratching the surface about what we can do with them, with those technologies, and helping us to get things done faster and to get insights, right? The human brain can only learn so fast, and if we can teach machines to do some of the learning for us, it's excellent.
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of, you mentioned AI, scratching the surface, but when we looked at other technologies used in conjunction with data management investments, obviously cloud is coming out top, cybersecurity just behind that, blockchain seems to be talked about a bit more again after going a little quiet last year, and then AI is even less than that. But what are you seeing in terms of other technologies that are being brought into the equation when you're dealing with new deals in particular?
So I think just basic data quality, right? And there's different ways that you can get at data quality, but that connection that all my business problems are usually driven by data, or fixing a working capital problem is fixing a data problem, that is coming up on the priority list. And then what usually gets highlighted quickly is the data governance piece of this. Who's entering the data? Who has control? who's the master and the slave of the different data if I have multiple systems that I'm trying to drive, or I've got engineering has a system that enters, manufacture, had part numbers and manufacturing, and it was up to them, they'd add customer numbers too, and things like that. But you've just got to really stay focused on that. How do we govern that data that we have? How do we add it quickly? How do we update it quickly? And how do we make it all tie together?
Fantastic. I got a couple of questions that have come in about what are the most significant changes in data management kind of initiatives pre and post COVID. I thought this chart kind of jives a little bit as well, but you mentioned a lot about process improvement, accessing the right technology. What do you think's been the biggest change that we've seen and what we're going to see next year?
So I think the general is the importance of the data and how a lot of these, drill back to figure out if I've got a problem, what's the data that's causing it. Change management's always important if I'm trying to put in new tools, right, or new ways of working. And so I've really got to get people to think differently about it and think in a data-centric way, like what's going to happen with my data and where's it going to go. And I do think we're going to continue to see leadership focus, right, relative to what's important relative to data. And that was a big jump there because, again, it takes leadership to say, hey, if the data is wrong, shame on you, but there's no excuses, right? You got to go fix that. You got to go get it working. You got to go get it done. Because without that and that ownership, it doesn't make any sense. And I think, the one that we have down here is number 5 that's came out on that list is a connection that, I've mentioned a couple times now, is just growing in people's mind, right? Because I still saw, people currently 6 months ago, a year ago, trying to say, well, let's come up with a data strategy and it be that perfect intellectual data strategy, but we're not going to link it to the priorities of what we're going to do or how we're going to run the business. And that doesn't work, right? So you got to do it based on business need and, and how that business need drives the difference in out through your whole company, right? And obviously, that's going to tie to the fact that the staff and the skills need to be upgraded, right? And there's got to be better teaching, better courses, better connections. But when people like, your firm are, put your models out that help people how they think about it and they show, that big connection and how data is the connective tissue throughout the, the process cycle or through the one office, it just keeps going better. And, and we've got our old friend infrastructure modernization is back because, you can't run fast to the future if you got to grab the past and drag it with you.
Can't drag the past with you. I can't agree more on that. So Kevin, you've been very well behaved in not over promoting your own company over the last 45 minutes or so. But it'd be great to hear a bit more about the approach that you're taking with Syniti. And I've also noticed you've been announcing a lot of fairly intimate partnerships with some of the leading service providers. And here are some that came out in our study mentioned as most aligned with data analytics and services engagements. And I've noticed IBM, Deloitte in particular, you've talked about as partners, but maybe you could talk a little bit about the strategy you're taking with Syniti that's so unique.
Yeah, so at Syniti, we have software that helps us, and now with the DMR acquisition, we have more software and a richer landscape to deal with. But we've invested over 75 million in our software over the years, and what I tell CEOs when I talk to them is all you're getting the benefit of is all the mistakes we made, right? We've done 4,000 at last count of the largest, toughest data conversions, data migrations, data projects around. And all the software is embedding our best practices, the best way we learned it, the methodology, and how the things that we're doing. So the company traditionally, when we were known as back office, was more of a, we'll do it all ourselves. And in order to, I said, we've got this huge asset that's our software. And why shouldn't we do that with other people? I've worked in the SI marketplace all of my life. Some of them had their own tools. Some of them used other people's tools. And what we've gone about is a slow and methodical way of talking to all of them, showing what our tool is, training them on what they have. And frankly, the market is growing so fast, right? And there's so much opportunity. We can keep us all busy. So it's not, I don't think about it as, if we give the services revenue over to IBM or Deloitte or somebody else, that we're losing anything, because there's so much work out there and there's a role for all of us in those different environments that we have. So yes, we have a strong partnership with IBM, a very strong partnership with Deloitte. We do work with Accenture based on their, their global presence, a lot more in Asia Pacific, which is exciting for us. And then, the emphasis, the E&Y is an important emphasis, Capgemini, a little bit with Cognizant and TCS. The Indian pure plays as a class, we've grown faster. And as they get into more of the big ERP implementations, we think we've got a tool that can help them grow exceptionally fast.
So would you describe yourselves as more of a software firm or a service firm?
We say we're a software-led services company, but our differentiation, you can do a lot of things when you're a services company, but our differentiation is using our software to implement for clients. And again, we can do it with other people's software or other things. We just have invested so much in ours, and we think it has so much of the best practices that we're all about speed and speed to value, right? Because nobody puts in an ERP system because it's fun. Most of us only have so many in our life. I one time had a full head of hair, but you put those ERP systems in because you want business results, right? And one of Dave Barnes, who's a very wise member of our board, who was, CIO at UPS forever and a day, right? And people say, UPS is a trucking company. I actually say it's an IT company that happens to own trucks. Their whole business is IT. And he says to me, people don't get fired. CIOs don't get fired because the project didn't work. They get fired because their peers didn't get the business benefits that they were promised. And we always got to remember, this is about the business benefits, right? Whether it's getting to more customers, growing faster, extending our global reach, being able to better cross-sell our products. Those are the business benefits that people are going to. So this is all about speed to value, right? And we believe that our software, right, can, and our people, or the people that we've trained and enabled, by the end of the year, we will have trained over 500 of the global systems integrators people on our tools and how they work. It's all about helping them get to the finish line faster so they can get those business benefits.
Great. Well, I've known you for 20 years, Kevin, and I've never seen you with hair. So if anyone's got a picture of Kevin with hair, please email me and I'll get it out there. Good. I've got a couple of questions here from former employees of yours, which is, I'm not going to ask one of them because it's too complicated. But there's another one, from Drew Pipkin, if you remember him. He's asking if you see the challenges of data quality more significant when firms make acquisitions and they attempt to merge systems and data. So do you think the challenges are significant, or do you think that creates opportunity?
Well, I think it creates a lot of opportunity. What we're trying to get people to do, and thanks for the question, is think about data quality earlier in the process. So we're working with some of the M&A advisors because we say, you wouldn't buy a car without making sure that you had a car inspection. You wouldn't buy a home without a home inspection. Why would you buy another firm without a data inspection? Right? And so if you have the data inspection, I think what it does is it brings, a lot of people don't get the benefits out of M&A. That's been studied and published multiple times. One of the big reasons is they can't get the data together, right? They can't get it working and they can't get it tied. So you got to move that early up in the process rather than today it's, all the art of the deal. I get all the way to the end and everybody's like, oh crap, we got to worry about the data, right? You should be worrying about that from day one and figuring out what the plan is. And the people that are most proactive for us and our serial acquirers or divestitures, it's one of the first questions they ask, what are we going to do?
Right. Excellent. So I've got a softball here from Mike Donnellan. Is data the world's most valuable currency?
Well, some people would argue Bitcoin, and some people have been making some crazy money on Bitcoin, but no, I do think data is the most valuable currency that people have. And I think helping people, get and keep their data clean is important, right? And I think it's the thing that allows people to elevate their game, get better results, do that faster. And as one of the questions later says, how do you keep it clean, right, afterwards? Well, one of the things, because I did all that work to get it clean, right? Now, how am I going to make sure it stays clean? Part of the reality is if you've done it right, and a lot of people don't, because if you're using spreadsheets, right, spreadsheets might get you to convert the data, but it won't get you to maintain the data. If you've done it with a proper system that's orchestrated, you've built these rules that said data here goes there and it's got to look like this and I got to construct it. So if I keep those same rules and I run those every night or every hour or every day and keep putting exception reports out, then I don't let my data go bad, right? But the problem is a lot of people do a migration and then forget everything they did in the migration and throw it over and say it's a new project, right? And, the reality is that you got to use those same rules on an ongoing basis to keep the data quality high and keep it going.
That's great. You answered the next question there about keeping data clean after a transformation. I do have another question around where the most critical needs are in the business. I put some data from the study here as well, which could help answer some of that. So where do we see the biggest issues with data quality, like F&A, customer experience, etc.? I mean, we've seen here a lot of criticality, harnessing data for operations, then financial performance, then customer facing activities. But where are you seeing the biggest need right now, Kevin?
I think, we've talked about it a couple of times. All those areas are obviously important and you can see that they're all highly rated. Customer is the thing we're consistently called about today, is customer related activities today. And I don't know whether it's people who have spent less time on it or there's more disparate systems in that area, but the customer, getting a 360 view of my customer and getting all the data from segmentation or sentiment analysis and all the way through the whole customer life cycle is super important. And of course, the customer data is important because we got all the laws and regulations around how we handle it. So customer 360 analysis and driving it is a big part of what we're seeing right now. But, when you go into look at working capital or inventory turns, all of those are people are more and more realizing that's driven by data.
Right. So we've got a bit of time left, and I thought it'd be nice to maybe ask you a couple more personal questions. One is, as you look over your career, who've been the most influential people on you in helping you make decisions and decide what you want to do with your life?
So a couple things. Obviously, Bill Green, who I worked with at Accenture for many years, and he's the chairman of our company here, and he asked me if I would be interested to coming here, and he's been hugely influential to me. I've been fortunate to have other great mentors, Carl Kilmer, or my phone's ringing, Joe Tucci right now, are all just terrific people that I've really been able to lean on. I have a brilliant team around me at Syniti. And so, too many to mention that give me, great advice, counsel, and so on. And then clearly, my family, it might be strange to say, I've got 10-year-old twins, but they give me lots of advice, right? Much of it I don't like, but they're never shortage of opinions on any subject. And I'm teaching about data. I'm figuring by the time they're 18, they'll be able to be strong data analysts for us.
Yeah, that's pretty good. My 11-year-old just tells me to fire all my staff all the time and take a vacation.
Oh, see, mine are on the opposite side. They're always, why don't you just promote them more, pay them more money, and let them do the work. But it's the same net. Go on vacation.
There you go. It's always the same outcome. Daddy, just stop working so hard, right?
Right.
So you're on a desert island. You got one song to listen to. What's it going to be?
I've really been into country music right these days, but I've had a ton of different songs over the years. That's a great question, but it's a super hard question to figure out. I might go back to some of my old Beatles songs, that just pick you up. Anything, if you're on a desert island, some days that might be really happy, but most of the time you're really going to be wanting to be picked up and lifted up. So I'd probably say anything by Luke Combs these days, or go back to some of my Beatles or Rolling Stone stuff.
Here Comes the Sun. That's a good one, right?
Yeah.
And finally, well, not far. I got two more actually. You got one book to read.
Right now I'm reading Mindset, and I love it, which is all about how to have a growth mindset. And it's actually very helpful with kids too, in how you're trying to think about it. And Dare to Lead is another great book that's out there recently. I'm not sure. I probably, if I said I could only have one, yeah, I'd probably take my Bible with me, because there's a lot of good lessons in there that I continue to read.
Yeah, I still haven't read it. It's been one of these days. Right. And finally, then one movie to watch.
So probably my favorite movie of all time is Remember the Titans. And I don't know why. I mean, I'm a huge football fan, as most people who know me know. But that movie, Denzel Washington did a fantastic job. It's a great story. It's got a lot of great music in it. And it's terrific. So, and quite motivating, right? And there's so many good lines in there. Like there's one where he's making the kids do, in football they call up downs, so they're keep dropping to the ground and getting back up, and the other coach comes up to him, his assistant coach, and said, there's a fine line between making a point and installing discipline, right, and overdoing it. And coach, you're flirting with that line right now. So everything in life is a balance, I believe. And so, we got to have somebody sometimes remind us when we're flirting with the wrong side of the line.
Do you know what? I haven't seen that movie in donkeys. I think I'm desperate for a good film, so I'm going to download that one if I can find it somewhere. Look, I've really enjoyed this. We've had a great hour. I think we've talked about data incessantly, almost too much, I think. But congratulations on, I think, the great job you've done on Syniti and getting it out there into the market and getting yourself talked about and making the acquisition in the last couple of weeks of DMR. So we've written about that as well and on our blog as well. So and it's been great hearing from you. I'm sure there's a lot of people who've dialed in today to hear your voice and are very pleased with the success you're having. And it's good to see the good guys having some fun building companies again. So really appreciate the last hour. We'll make the recording of this available. It'll go to hfsresearch.com and we'll have it online in the next couple of days. And then we'll also obviously send you guys who've dialed in a copy of the deck. You can take it and read it at your own leisure. And then remember to download your copy of the paper. It's a good read. It's got some really, it's got some, it's a good evaluation of what we talked about today. And it's great to hear what the C-suite is saying. So thank you very much, Kevin. Thanks everyone at Syniti.
Thanks for having me.
Okay. And to the next time, everybody.
All right. Take care, everybody. Have a great day.